From the blog Random Sweets, I'm Stacy Mergenthal, and this is Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens, a show for people who embrace the warm and cozy spirit of everyday living in the northern Midwest. It's my and my husband's birthday week. Our birthdays are 1 day apart, so we are the same age for 1 day. And because my favorite birthday cake, frosting, is a recipe my mom has made for many of my 50 birthdays, I asked her to share her chocolate cake and snow frosting recipes. I was surprised to learn that both recipes came from her mom, my Grandma Janet, when my mom and dad got married in 1969. We even found a picture of my mom on her 17th birthday with a cake my Grandma Janet made for her. I don't recall a birthday party without my mom's barbecues, so we're talking about those too, even though she doesn't have a written recipe. In addition to being a spectacular baker, my mom is a master seamstress. And because my sisters and I don't need her to sew pajamas, prairie dresses, or Halloween costumes anymore, she sews adorable blankets as a side project, some of which she donates to charities in Sioux Falls. Plus, I'm going to ask her to share what dream gig she's been doing in her first 7 years of retirement. So let's go talk to my mom, Linda Moe, and eat birthday cake. So I'm here with my mom today, Linda Moe, in South Dakota, and we're talking birthday cake, because doesn't everybody love birthday cake? My mom is shaking her head, yes! My birthday and my husband Jason's birthday are a day apart, so we get to celebrate being the same age for 1 day. And as I was thinking about my mom and her baking, which she doesn't do as much now, of course, but when we were younger and when she was younger, had a family to feed and a lot more family activities, she did a lot of baking. And one of the things that I loved the most was your chocolate birthday cake that you would make for us. And of course, it was partly the cake, but mostly it was the snow frosting. And for people, yep, she's licking her fingers. And the cool thing is she surprised me when I got here to her house today. She actually made one of these cakes for me and Jason and has it decorated with the little sprinkles just like she always did, and then the little candy letters that you can eat that spell out our name and happy birthday. So it was pretty special. I want you to share, this is my birthday present to me. I want you to share about the snow frosting, because it's not something that everybody knows what it is. It's not like a whipped vanilla or a cream cheese frosting. And we were just talking about how some people know it as, or they call it 7-minute frosting, right? Mm-hmm. So first of all, do you remember where you got the snow frosting recipe?
Oh, from my mother.
From Grandma Janet.
Yep. And it wasn't, and I think the reason that it's not made as much now is it's more work. Because you do have to cook it and in a double boiler and use a mixer, which just the memory just came back now of my mom not having an electric mixer, and she made this for cakes. So she did the old hand beater, and that's a lot of work. And you cook it and you mix it for a good 7 minutes. So props to my mom for the years that she made this frosting and did it truly by hand. No electric mixer involved.
Boy, I never had thought about that before.
I hadn't either.
If my hand mixer, I mean, I have a stand mixer, but we use a hand mixer for this because it is done over the double boiler as you're cooking. We'll get to that here in a minute. But I think if mine stopped working, I would just say, well, no snow frosting.
Yes.
It wouldn't have even crossed my mind to just do it by hand.
I do have the hand beater yet, but it's been years since I've used it. It's harder to clean, for one thing.
Oh.
More to it, all the gears, because everything goes in the water. Well, people like you who have dishwashers, I suppose it would go in there because it's stainless, but...
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I don't do a lot of my baking stuff in the dishwasher or my pots and pans.
I don't have dishwashers, so...
Yeah, no, I have it because Jason will just throw everything in the dishwasher. But, okay, so the snow frosting, also known as 7-minute frosting, is because you do have to beat it as it's cooking for at least 7 minutes, which if you were doing it by hand, I would imagine it takes at least that amount of time.
Yes.
But what I really like about this frosting, so if people haven't had it before, or maybe you've had it, but you don't realize that's what it is or what it was, you might mistake it for kind of a marshmallow frosting, but that's not what this really, I mean, it kind of comes out that way, but it has no marshmallow cream or anything, no marshmallows in it.
I don't think it's quite as sweet as the marshmallow frosting. I mean, it has 2 cups of sugar in it, don't get me wrong, but it is just so smooth, and it's more like a soft serve ice cream consistency.
Mm-hmm. Because it can have little, I mean, that's kind of when you know it's done, is when you're being able to get
it's
the peaks.
It's supposed to have stiff peaks on it, just like a meringue would have. But depending on the weather, if it's humid, it's not going to set up as well. So just be aware of that if you're making it. It does have an effect on it, what time of the year and what your conditions are in your kitchen.
So yay me, I have a February birthday.
You did the right thing.
And in South Dakota, it's not usually humid at that time of year. So it works out to have this for my birthday.
But as I had told you before, that one that I just made now today, it didn't set up quite as stiff peaks because I just kind of eyeball the corn syrup. It's supposed to be 1 teaspoon, and I think I end up with like a tablespoon or 2 because I like it sticky and gooey instead of, because if you do have it at the right time and your conditions are good and you get it to the stiff peak, once it gets on the cake and you allow it to set for a few hours, it will crust over.
Yes.
And I don't want it crusted over. I want it sticky and gooey. So
Right. That is one thing, is that it can be different one time that you make it, different to the next time that you make it.
Yes.
It always tastes really good. Now, one time I forgot to add the vanilla.
Oh, I've done that.
Oh, if you don't add the vanilla, it doesn't really taste like anything.
There's not much flavor.
Right. It has the consistency that you want, and it's sugary, but really no flavor. So the vanilla is important.
Yep. And one hint on the vanilla, if you use white vanilla, it's better. If you use the brown vanilla, it will tint, not brown, but it gets a little bit of a off color. It doesn't stay white.
That's a really good tip, because I don't know if I've done that before. I keep a bottle of
Watkins white vanilla.
Just for that purpose.
To be sure I have for that cake.
Mm-hmm. How many years have you been making this?
Oh my goodness.
You got it from Grandma? Grandma used to
got married in 1969, so I've been using it since 1969.
And Grandma Janet, so your mom, she used to make this for you. And I think I have a picture that I'm going to share on our blog that we just found today of you at 17 years old with the birthday cake in front of you that Grandma Janet made with this same chocolate cake and snow frosting recipe.
Yep, she put a lot of work into it. And I mean, I didn't appreciate it with that hand beating that she had to do all those years.
Right. And you would usually make it, when we were younger, you said, as a layered cake.
Yeah.
And I remember it a lot more in the 9x13 cake pan with
as you were older. Yeah, I used to make it in the layers so that it would have a lot of frosting, because I'd make 2 layers, so there would be a layer of this frosting in between, over the top. I'd do the sides and everything. So it was maybe half cake, half frosting each piece.
No wonder I like the frosting. Does that mean when you would do a layer cake that you would double the frosting recipe?
The frosting recipe, yes.
Okay.
Because this just does a nice thick 9x13.
Okay.
And what I would have done if I could have found my pans today was just put it in the middle and on the top.
Oh, sure.
And not done the sides, because that's kind of pretty to look at too, and you see the chocolate and the white fluffy in the middle. So
that's kind of a big thing nowadays too, is to have the naked cake where you just have
a drizzle that drizzles down the side or something, which this does not drizzle. So
no, it's sticky.
Yeah, gooey.
So let's talk about the recipe. Let's just walk through, so that if you have some tips to give to people if they want to try to make this for the first time, or if they've maybe been making it, or maybe they find this recipe in their handed down recipe box and they're like, what is snow frosting or 7-minute frosting? That you can kind of give them some tips if it's their first time. Or I've heard people, as soon as you talk about a double boiler, they're like, I'm out. I'm not.
They get intimidated.
Not doing this.
Yeah.
I used to borrow your double boiler all the time so I could make this. And then
I gave it to you for Christmas one year.
Yeah.
A double boiler. That was on your Christmas list.
Yep, I am a baker. So, okay, so let's walk through the snow frosting recipe. The ingredients first.
Okay, it's 1 egg white, and this is just for like a 9x13, or if you want just the top and a layer up. If you want for a layer cake and top, filling, and sides, you'd have to double it. But for a single batch, it's 1 egg white, 3/4 cup sugar, a dash of salt, 3 tablespoons of water, 1 teaspoon corn syrup, and that's the white.
Or a tablespoon if you're doing
Well, I'll get to that. And it's the white corn syrup, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla.
Okay.
Now, the water, I get pretty close to 3 tablespoons, but the corn syrup, I kind of get generous with that because I like the frosting sticky. Mm-hmm. If you don't want it real sticky and you want it to set up in really stiff peaks, follow the recipe. Because I just kind of pour on that. And it's pretty hard to pour 1 teaspoon of corn syrup. So.
Oh, sure. The egg white.
Yeah.
Does it need to be cold or room temperature, or does it not make any difference?
I guess I have always used room temperature. I don't know.
Okay.
I would think it would beat up better
at room temperature.
Okay.
And so to do that, just set it out an hour before you're going to make it. Or if you forget, you can drop it in a glass of
warm it a
just
little
water.
bit.
And then that kind of brings it to room temperature. Okay. So you have all the ingredients. Now what do you do?
This is where people get intimidated because you use a double boiler. And if you don't have the double boiler, you can makeshift and have a smaller pan inside a little bit larger pan that has water in the bottom, and you keep the water boiling. Not a real hard boil because then it splatters all over, but a little bit more of a softer boil, but to keep it real hot so that this does form. And you mix the egg white, sugar, salt, water, and syrup. And I always mix that together before I put it in the hot water because once it gets hot, it kind of sticks to the bottom of the pan. And you want to make sure that the egg white isn't forming its own little spaces.
Omelet.
You want,
Omelet.
Yes, you want to have it mixed real well before you actually set it on that heat.
That's a good point.
And so you cook it over the boiling water using a portable mixer, as we've talked about, instead of the hand mixer that my mom used to use. And you keep boiling and beating until the frosting forms stiff peaks. And that, as I said, I like it a little sticky, so mine, I have made it where it gets the stiff peaks, and then after you frost the cake, it might form a little bit of a crust on it. Some people like it that way. I prefer it gooey and sticky, so I don't make it quite as stiff. But then you remove it from the heat and add vanilla. I have not done that, and it really doesn't have a flavor. That is your only flavor.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, I would think if you wanted to make this like at Christmas holiday time, instead of vanilla, you could use peppermint.
Oh, yeah.
A little minty flavor, and those are clear flavoring, so it's not like it would turn your white frosting a color.
No. Oh, you bet. So think about a layer cake. People do the chocolate layer cake and they like peppermint frosting. You do that with it and then add those like candy canes. And
Yeah, I was going to say decorate it with crunchies.
Peppermint, those
crushed up peppermints, or
yeah.
You could change it to whatever flavoring you like, as long as it'd be clear.
Almond. I would try it with almond extract because I love almond extract. And then I see here on your recipe, it does say double recipe for a layer cake. So you already had that on there. I brought mine with me too. You're looking at your card and I'm looking at, look at how dirty my recipe card is. You can tell I've used it a lot.
Mine has been rewritten. This is the second.
Sure.
Since 69, it didn't look this way when it was rewritten.
I have my electric hand mixer. Well, I finally had to replace because you gave me that too. I think it was a Ace Hardware Black Friday deal.
Yeah, the $5.
I had that for so many years and it just worked like a charm. And finally it stopped working. So I did get myself a new one a couple years ago. Yeah, so the electric hand mixer is what works best because you're having to do it over the stovetop.
Yes. My electric hand mixer stopped the last time that I made this frosting. And I had gotten a new Hamilton Beach on a Black Friday thing. And I had to dig that out last night when I started having to make this. And I thought, oh, man, got to assemble this and figure out for sure how it works and how to clean everything, how to get it opened. And my goodness, but that thing had power.
Good.
My old one was back from probably the 70s. Wow. An old Sunbeam. A yellow Sunbeam one.
Oh, that would be a pretty one, though. So Grandma's big stand mixer is a Sunbeam.
Yes.
And I still have that. I don't use it. It's on display in my kitchen above the cupboards. But it was, I think, the only one she ever had.
Yes.
It lasted forever until she moved into assisted living and gave me that mixer.
Yep. And she used it a lot. Because in our family, it was my parents' siblings would always come for their birthdays. So if your birthday was, you got to do the work. You either made your own cake or cookies or whatever you were going to have. You knew you were getting company because they would come on your birthday to celebrate your birthday.
Oh, but you had to make the food.
Yes, and clean your house and be ready for them. And yes, that was tradition on both sides, my mom's side and dad's, that you would have company on your birthday, so have a cake ready.
For yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the chocolate cake recipe because I grabbed my crazy cake recipe thinking that was maybe what you used, but I just learned it's not. So
I have used crazy cake. I prefer that one, but if you're going to do it as some special cake, I prefer the recipe that I've used today because it sets up firmer. Oh. Where the crazy cake is really moist and it gets heavy. And if you're going to make it into a layer cake, the more dense it is, the heavier it is. So I have used crazy cake too for just, especially if you're going to put it in a 9x13, then it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But yeah, the fudgy crazy cake with the snow frosting is to die for.
Oh my gosh. So what is this chocolate cake recipe then? This was Grandma Janet's.
This was from my mom also. And when I got married, she didn't give me a recipe box with recipes, but I copied a lot of recipes that she had. And this was the chocolate cake that she always made. It was my dad's favorite. He had a white cake that he liked, and this was his favorite chocolate. So I started out marriage with one recipe of chocolate cake. And it's called cocoa fudge cake.
Oh, okay.
It has 3/4 cup shortening, 2 cups sugar, 1 tablespoon vanilla, 3 eggs that are well beaten, and you mix all the wet ingredients, and then you alternately combine the dry ingredients with using ice water. So it's a little more instructions. The 1/2 cup cocoa, 3 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons soda, and 3/4 teaspoon salt. And there's a 1.5 cups of ice water needed. So you have your shortening, sugar, vanilla, and eggs together. You pour in some of the flour mixture, mix that a little bit, then add water. Mix that so you're back and forth, dry water, to incorporate it and mix it better.
The Ice water? Do you know what's the significance
I don't know
of
why
ice
the
water?
cold.
Okay.
If it does something with the shortening that's already, if it sets it up, I suppose it would bind better with the flour if the shortening has kind of stiffened a little bit. I don't know. I finally have a ice and water dispenser in my refrigerator, so I use that. But I do remember always making this. You'd run the water, run until it really got cold and use it. So we used the coldest that we had.
Okay. Well, like, I don't make homemade pie crust, but I know enough to hear them say ice water. You're using ice water in some of those doughs.
And that's because of the shortening or lard, whatever you use in your pie crust.
Okay. Is oleo the same thing as a vegetable shortening?
No. Oleo has more fat.
Okay. Because I see some older recipes and they'll say oleo, and I always
Oleo is more the substitute for butter.
Oh, okay.
And Crisco, I'm not sure if Crisco still makes it because I don't buy much Crisco anymore. It's hardly used anymore. But they used to have a butter-flavored Crisco.
They still do.
They do?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I always have to specify when I'm making Grandma's white cookies, because that takes the white vegetable shortening.
The real Crisco, original Crisco.
So it's like, don't use the butter flavor. And then that would be the same for this too.
Yeah.
Yum. Well, I'm going to have to look in my recipe box to see if I have that one, because I don't know if I have that one in there. So I probably will need that recipe.
All three of you girls, I gave a bunch of recipes to when you got married, and I would assume that it was in there, but double check.
But some of them I don't know what they are, so I go to the ones...
You don't know the history.
Right. I think... Do I have a recipe in there called Edna's Brownies?
Yes.
Who's Edna?
She was a neighbor, Edna Rossman.
When we lived in Brookings, or when you were in the country?
My parents.
Oh.
That's a recipe from Mom also. No, it was my parents' neighbor when we lived by White.
Oh, well, I haven't made those. Now I'm going to have to make Edna's Brownies.
My recipe is laying out, and my sour cream is in the refrigerator waiting to make it.
Oh, that's funny.
I think we're thinking along the same line.
Yeah. Well, like the Johnny cake recipe, that was for the cornmeal bread or corn.
That was your Grandma Perry's recipe.
And I did a Kelloland Living episode doing that one because I kind of dug that out and had asked Dad about the history of that. So it's fun when they have names on it. Even sometimes I don't know. I think we have one in there of Lola's, some Lola's.
Frosting.
Okay.
Chocolate frosting.
Okay. So that would be my Aunt Lola on my dad's side.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other recipe that makes me think about birthday parties are your barbecues, which I joke. I was an adult before I realized there's no barbecue sauce in the barbecue.
Oh, my.
Wait, what? There's no barbecue sauce in Mom's barbecues? But
you could make your own that way.
I like your barbecues. And so you would make those a lot of times for birthday parties. And I want to know what the recipe for that is.
Very simple. Very, very simple. It's, I have no quantities because that's just dump.
Hold on. I should say that when I came to my mom's house today, she had written it on a Post-it note. Because she's like, I don't have a recipe for this. So I had to write it down to remember how I do it. So this is another one of those that she just knows by heart. And there wouldn't be a recipe card for it. So...
No, and the quantity of what you're adding depends on how much you want to make. I generally, if it's just going to be 4 or 5 people, I'll just put a pound or 2 of hamburger and tomato sauce, and that's the actual can of tomato sauce, which this also is more or less from my mom that I learned how to make them. And Mom would have her own tomato sauce that she had canned, of course, when I was a little kid. Later years, it was you buy it in a can. But ketchup, mustard, and seasoning to what you like, salt and pepper. Now, onions traditionally is in barbecue, and I don't care for onions, but I know it adds flavor, so I will actually dump in some onion flakes.
Okay.
So it'd be dehydrated, but it would soften it and you get some of the flavor. I just do not like biting into onions, so I prefer to not actually put onions in. And then I had it on my Post-it note, little hint that I had kind of forgotten, that when you're going to have a big gathering, like we used to do this for birthday parties and such, or at holiday time, if we would have this sometimes on Christmas Eve, because Christmas Day was the big meal, and I would have my parents over for Christmas Eve, and we would have barbecues. And if you want to stretch what you have, that you don't want to have 5 pounds of hamburger, make this mix and add quick oats, not instant oatmeal, but the quick oats kind, and that will absorb into it too and stretch it. And you do not taste the oatmeal.
This is the first time I've ever heard that you did that. And I've had it for how many 50 years of my life and never knew that there were times, many times probably, because it was a lot of parties.
When it was an actual party. Because we would have that even for when we'd have your kids' party.
Yep.
Because you'd have neighbor kids and friends from school over, and
so that reminds me, my birthday's on February 20th, which often means it's on President's Day, which this year it is.
Yes.
Do you remember that year we had the biggest party? Usually they were at our house.
Yes.
Do you remember when we had the biggest party planned at the roller skating rink? What happened?
No, I don't.
You don't remember?
No.
I don't remember which birthday, but we had the big party because it was on a Monday. It was President's Day, so we did not have school. We planned it at the roller skating rink for the first time, and there was a blizzard, and we couldn't have my party.
Oh, I do not remember that.
Oh, well, I was devastated, so obviously I still
So we didn't
remember.
have the party at all, or just no roller skating?
No, we didn't have the party. Nobody. It was no party. It was a big.
It was a
blizzard.
South Dakota blizzard.
Sort of like your birthday's in April, and once in a while lands on Easter, and we've had a few blizzards.
Yes.
At the beginning of April on your.
I was born
birthday.
on Good Friday, and it was an ice storm. We lived out on a farm, and Mom said it was treacherous to get to the hospital because of icy roads.
And this year, your birthday's on Good Friday.
Yeah.
Also.
Back to that. So at noon, I really will officially, because I was born on Good Friday at 12 o'clock noon.
Okay.
So I can celebrate it again.
Fun to have winter birthdays. Well, hey, it's not humid, so you can have snow frosting. That's the good part. I'll take that any day.
Well, we had rainstorm one year and washed out our driveway, and no one could come for my birthday. So
when you were growing up and out in the country on the farm.
I think I was 7 or 8 that year, and we just had a brand new driveway because it would always be flooded. So we had just moved there and put in a real tall driveway. Well, it hadn't packed enough, so it washed out in the rain.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I had a disappointing birthday one year too, but it was because of rain.
See, so you remember that. Maybe Grandma wouldn't have,
No, I doubt if she would remember that.
Yeah. No, I remember the
I never had kid birthday parties. It was just the relatives that always would come when you had to clean your house and bake your own birthday cake.
Right. Yeah, no, ours, we always got to have a family birthday party, and you would also let us do a friend birthday party. And we would usually do it at the house. But like I said, that year it was just special because we had the rink and we didn't have school because it was a holiday, and we had a major blizzard. I don't think we ever tried that again, but
probably not.
Oh, well, good. Those are good things for my birthday. Good memories. And I learned a little bit about, like I said, that cake. I just didn't know, and certainly didn't realize those recipes had come from Grandma, that they were handed down.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where she got them from, but they were always a staple at that time.
So I said before we started recording, we were kind of talking about that frosting, and I said sometimes the 7-minute frosting I thought had cream of tartar, and you said, no, that's meringue. So there's a difference between this snow frosting or 7-minute frosting, as some people call it, to meringue. It's different.
And meringue you bake. You don't leave that raw.
No, that's true. And this is, you don't bake this. This goes on sticky and it's done.
I mean, it's cooked. The egg is cooked, but it's not in the oven again to brown or anything. So.
And I don't think this is the kind that if I took my kitchen torch to it, it's not like, so I have a s'mores cheesecake and I make a topping very similar to this, but you are cutting up marshmallows into that as you're making. It is over the double boiler and it's all of this, but you're actually also adding some cut up marshmallows.
Oh, okay.
And then you can kitchen torch it to brown it. But I think this would heat, wouldn't it?
I think this would just melt.
Yeah.
If you put that much heat on it.
It's a particular recipe. And, well, that's all I can think about for our birthday party, but I want you to tell me a minute about, so you retired and moved to Sioux Falls, and I think you had kind of one thing in mind that you wanted to be able to do.
Yes. For many years that was planned.
It was a dream of yours to do that.
Yes.
So tell everybody what you do.
I'm a baby rocker in the NICU every Thursday.
And what does that mean? Because she's not rocking out in...
Oh, no. No.
Rock.
And we do not change diapers. We do not feed the babies. All we do is give them cuddles. And sometimes they cannot be held yet, but you get called in because they just need to be patted or, just rub their leg a little bit or something and talk to them. But
some human touch or connection. Okay.
The touch is so important. A couple of weeks ago, a nurse stopped me and asked me to hold one of her babies because both parents were sick. And it was 2 weeks that they hadn't been able to come because of illness themselves. So the rockers were, if you have no others that are dire needing, to just come in and hold that baby so that she kept on having touch.
Okay. And this is at Sanford.
At Sanford NICU.
Yeah.
I have learned so much. I'm in my 7th year there now. And I have learned so much about different things that I had no idea medicine had evolved that far. Things that they can do for these babies. And I mean, you get a baby that's 1 pound at birth and it goes home not on oxygen, no tubes, no nothing. It just goes home. It might take a few months, but they do go home. It's real rewarding.
Yeah. I know you look forward to your Thursdays because today is Thursday when we're
Yes.
recording this. And
I worked on Sunday instead.
Yeah.
I make it up.
Yeah. So that's really special.
Yeah, I love it. My 2 things are the dogs and babies, because also at the Humane Society I volunteer there. So
right, but
my 2 loves in life.
Don't you do the cats though? Because you said you bring all the dogs home, but you
Yes. My title is cat cuddler, and I don't think I have cuddled a cat in probably 3 years now.
And we're not a cat family. I'll just note that we are a huge
I love
dog
cats,
family.
but not to own one. So that's why I chose to be a cat cuddler, because I can go in and play with the cats. You take them out of their crate, you go in a separate room, play for them for 5-10 minutes, and then you have to put them back in the crate. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But I can leave them there. Where a dog, like I said, I'm in my 7th year there too, and I have yet to walk through the dog area.
It'd be like, Linda's got her car full of dogs again, and she's leaving. Somebody
She's got an
needs to go get
SUV. We
Linda.
can get a lot of them in there. And there's a lot that are out on foster care too that are actually adoptable through the Humane Society. So it's not just the ones in the cages there. There's also some out in the community that are for adoption.
And they have all their dogs the Humane Society usually posts their dogs on their website.
On their website.
So even if you're not in Sioux Falls, but you're in a different town, you usually can adopt a dog from your Humane Society.
Actually, on Saturday, I am taking one that is being adopted in Minnesota. I'm meeting the adoption agency in Worthington, I should say, yes, on Saturday.
Okay. So
switching off from one humane society to another because it's going to be adopted over there.
It's a dog?
Yes.
There's going to be an APB out for my mom. I just know it because she's not going to show up with that dog.
Well, we'll see. It is a little one. That's my downfall.
That
is
is
the
your
little
downfall.
little lap dog, and she's the cutest little thing. Her name is Bobby.
Oh, well, I'm glad she's
But
going to a good
yes,
home.
she is. So
Good.
that'll be a new experience. I have not done transport before.
Yeah.
Normally, I pick up donations. Organizations or businesses that are donating something for a special cause. Like we have Pause to Celebrate coming up in April. That's the biggest fundraiser of the Humane Society. And businesses will donate something, but of course they don't want to bring it out to the Humane Society. So I'm the gopher that gets a list once in a while that sometime this week, can you go to these 5 places and pick up things? So I have been in parts of Sioux Falls that I didn't know existed. I think I've gained weight in restaurants that are donating while I wait for a gift card.
But that's pretty cool, though, when you think about the Humane Society. People sometimes think of exercising a dog, walking a dog,
Yes.
or cleaning their kennels or something.
Yeah.
But there's so many other ways to volunteer at different organizations, and there's one right there. And
Yep. And the Humane Society, which I did not know when I started there, is they get no funding from the city, county, anything. It is strictly donations. So there's an aisle of cat food and an aisle of dog food, and they get very, very bare sometimes. So when you hear like Kelloland does their once a year, they will do a not fundraising, but a food
Drive.
contribution for there. It is needed because it's not like we can go out and just buy it. You know, we depend on donors.
so even
Totally.
gift cards to places that they have dog food, so the Humane Society could then go and
Well,
purchase
that,
dog food.
and you can also go on, I think Chewy is possibly one. They've got, if you go on the Sioux Falls Area Humane Society, it will have a website to go to that you can just order.
Oh, and then have it shipped right there.
Shipped
Oh,
right
how
to the
perfect.
Humane
I didn't know
Society.
that.
It's done a lot.
Good.
Yep. And it's not just the food. I mean, they have a whole list of office supplies that can be donated, and, you know, it's a lot of things that you don't think about
Sure.
that are needed because you can't just go out and buy it, you know, because they're not getting money from the city or anything. So,
And they're running a business, so like you said, they have
Yeah.
their office paper and
it's a busy place, I tell you.
bathrooms
Very
need
busy.
soap and toilet paper
Yes.
just for the humans that come in and out of there
Yes.
and all of those
Yep.
things. So good. Well, that's a good cause, and I know there's humane societies in a lot of communities and
Yes.
other animal places. So
Yeah,
Those
there's
are-
a lot of rescues around too. Yep.
well, that
And they
keeps
work
you-
well with the Humane Society. That's the cool part. There's so much cooperation between different organizations. It's amazing. There's a lot of good people out there.
Yeah, it's just to tell those stories and
Yes.
see, which our community news, I think, does a pretty good job of pulling some of those good ones.
Yeah,
but
it's not just all bad.
yeah, yep. And you're part of the good ones.
Oh, it's
So-
fun. I enjoy it. Both jobs.
Well, happy birthday to me.
Yes, happy birthday to
Thanks.
you,
And happy birthday to my
to
husband.
Jason.
who
Yes.
we get to be the same age one day, and then he's older 364 days out of the year.
His claim to fame.
Yep. So, well, thanks for the birthday cake too.
Yes.
Are we gonna have some now? We'll just
Well,
turn
that's
this
up
off
to
and
you.
let's
It's your
have some
cake. So,
Well, of course.
unless you want to have the whole thing with Jason.
We don't need to eat a whole cake. We would eat a whole cake.
Yeah.
We don't need to eat a whole cake.
See, when I make one like that, my mailman finds a little package in my mailbox, and the neighbors get some because I would sit and eat that whole cake. So I share.
and that's a good thing to say though, because that's not a freezable cake frosting.
No,
So this
the
is
cake
one,
would be freezable,
yeah.
but you'd have to thaw it and put the frosting on fresh.
Yeah.
Definitely can't be frozen, but it doesn't need to be refrigerated either.
Oh, good point. Good. Well, we'll have you back on the podcast again, hopefully, because I wanted to get you on at Christmas to talk about all the baking that you
Oh my gosh.
that you used to do. You don't do as much now
Yes.
because we just do things a little bit differently. But so
I
many
used
recipes.
to make about
and-
18 different things every year for our get-togethers. And thank goodness 3 daughters kind of took over and are making some of those things now. So I believe I only made 3 this last Christmas.
But you made the Forgotten Kisses. And
Oh,
that's
yes.
what I would have wanted if
Well,
I had
that's
a
Callie's
choice.
favorite. I
like
didn't
that
make
one
the
too.
orange slice bars. That's Heidi's favorite. And you do so much of your own. I don't really have a favorite to make for you.
I still like to leave those Forgotten Kisses up to you, though. There's just something perfect. Oh, and we'll have to have you talk about the cherry bing bars.
Oh,
Because I tried to make them once many years ago because I love those. I totally messed it up. I don't know what I did wrong, but you're going to have to come talk about those so that I can learn how to make those too.
oh.
So we'll have you back
I
many
may have to
times.
make them again because I haven't made those for several years now.
Yeah. I don't know what I did. I just thought, I'm going to make these as Mom's recipe. Well, it didn't just happen easily. So we'll have you back, I hope.
Okay.
All right. Well, see you later. Till
Bye-bye.
next time. Bye. That's a wrap on my birthday episode. In case you are wondering, yes, my mom successfully delivered the little dog Bobby to get her to her new family in Minnesota. You'll find the recipes from this episode, along with some fun vintage photos of my husband Jason, my mom, and me, all with birthday cakes over the years, on randomsweets.com. And just a reminder, on last week's comfort food episode with my son Sajan, I asked you to dig out your family's recipe or version of funeral potatoes, or cheesy hash browns or hash brown casserole, and send it to me for an episode that I'm working on for April. I'm anxiously waiting for you to mail it to me on handwritten 3x5 recipe or index cards, along with your name and the story that goes along with it. If there's no story that goes along with it, that's fine too. My mailing address is 1614 130th Street, Verdi, Minnesota, 56164. I've also added that address to the show notes so you can see it there. And if you prefer, you can email the recipe to me at stacy@randomsweets.com. That's STACI at randomsweets.com. And just a note about donating to the Humane Society through Chewy. It looks like you can go to chewy.com and then up at the top, click Give Back from the menu bar, and then click Donate to a Rescue, and you put in your location that you're looking for, and it will pull up the organizations in that area and their wish lists, so you can choose to donate through there. Thanks for listening. I know you have a ton of options for what you listen to, and I'm so happy you chose my mom and me today. If you are enjoying Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens, please share it with your family and friends. I hope you subscribe wherever you get your favorite shows so that you get alerts when a new episode's available, even if you binge listen to episodes while you're working from home. Happy birthday to you this year, and sweet wishes.